Welcome back to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. My name is Sam Hind, and this episode is a really different one for me. I grappled with releasing this one for quite some time. I shared it with a couple of close people and said, should I put this one out there or not? And in the end, I decided that there might just be one person out there that needs to hear this particular message. So what am I going on about? First of all, you're going to notice that during this episode, my energy is a little bit different to usual. I was drumming up throughout this recording some memories that I'm both very grateful for, but also are still fairly painful for me to remember. A lot of people have been asking me, Sam, why are you running a half marathon? What's the big deal? Why would you do it? The reason I've decided to run a half marathon is because I never should have been able to. I want to share with you a little bit of that journey, the condition I was born with, the journey I've been through throughout my life. And I had to really hold back the tears a few times during this recording. I hope that somebody out there hears a message they really need to hear today. So without any further ado, let's dive on in. Now, something that I don't talk to a lot of people about, but when I was born with a condition called talipes. It's also known as clubfoot. It affects some babies. It's not a genetic or hereditary condition usually. It's something that happens. It's to do with the way that you're sitting in the uterus while mum is pregnant. And essentially, what talipes means is that my feet, when I was born, were bent inwards and upwards. So essentially, mum was saying that my big toenails were bent up flush with my shins. Now, this obviously means that while my feet are left in this condition, I'm unable to walk. I wouldn't have been able to walk at the age of 1 if they didn't do something with this. So mum was given 2 options. She was given an option of giving me surgery at the age of 1, or she could go through a process where they would use little plasters to bend my feet down over the first 3 months of my life. And they would make a new plaster every 2 weeks, slowly stretching my feet down. Now, essentially, as you can imagine, the tendons along the back, or my Achilles, along the back of my heel was extremely stretched, and the tendon at the front was extremely short. And so this process meant that it was going to be readjusting all of those things and stretching out tendons that were very, very short, literally by pulling them. Now, me being mum's first baby, she thought surgery seemed pretty barbaric, so I'm going to go with the plaster option. So away she went, and I was talking to her about this just today as I was sort of preparing for this podcast episode. And mum was telling me about what an unbelievably torturous process that was for her as a mum, as well as me as a baby. Now, naturally, I don't remember this. But what she did tell me is that for the first 3 months of my life as her first ever newborn, all I did was scream. Lots and lots of pain going on. Now, I'm very happy to say that today I'm really blessed. My feet show no major signs of any issues, which is where I'm going to go with this in just a moment. But I'll show you, I actually found, and where this came from, it's funny what you dig up and the memories that you have. But I was digging through my kids' little bits and pieces I've got stuck in the cupboard there, and I actually found some old bags of my own baby things. And in amongst those, I actually found one of my little plasters. Now, this plaster here, if you're watching the video of this podcast, I'll pop a link even in the show notes with a picture of this for those of you that want to check it out after. But this would have been the very last one that I wore because it's actually quite big in comparison. I'm looking at this thinking this is not a newborn baby's foot. But you can imagine, because obviously that's fairly good right angle now. So that would have been one of the very last ones. But mum was saying that they would, every 2 weeks, they come in and they create a new little plaster. Now, the interesting thing is that as I grew up, I built in a little bit of very interesting self-talk. I don't exactly know where it started, but something happened in a process of people telling me who I was. At some point in my life, I began to believe it. As a little kid, I remember people telling me that I couldn't catch. I remember people telling me that I couldn't throw, that I wasn't good at sport. I was always the last kid to be picked on a team. And I noticed at some point, and when I think back over this process, and you might remember yourself doing this at some point throughout your life. I know that there's a point where I stopped from people telling me that I was these things to beginning to say them myself. And it wasn't just that I was telling people I can't catch, I can't throw, I'm not sporty, I'm not coordinated. It was actually that it was like I was pre-warning people of my shortcomings in advance. And so through my whole life, I was the kid that was unsporty. I was the kid that was uncoordinated. I was the kid that couldn't throw or couldn't catch or couldn't run or just didn't do anything athletic. And I sat out of everything because I felt like I couldn't do it. Now, as an adult, I look back on this and I go, wow, at what point did it go from me hearing someone saying this to believing it to actually saying it myself? Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because I was actually out on a little training run last week and I felt myself as I was going through my run, I started to get really emotional and I started to remember all of these things. And I was thinking about where I'd come from and where I was going and what I'm about to achieve here with all of this. And I realized something. Our self-talk essentially formulates everything that we become. We turn ourselves into things because we believe things about ourselves. And I realized just how much of a lie that actually can become. Do you know, in the job that I do now, I speak to a lot of people every day about their social media journey. What are they doing? Where are they going? What are their challenges? What do they find most frustrating? Do you know the thing that I hear most from people is not that, they don't know how to change a profile picture or word a post or take a great photograph or promote their products. It's this: I'm not tech savvy. This is the most common phrase I hear coming from people's mouths. And it breaks my heart every time I hear it. The reason it breaks my heart is because I know it's not true, but I also know that it's become part of who that person is. They've become not tech savvy, and not because they're not. It's simply because it's what they believe about themselves. 9 years ago, something really interesting happened to me. I'd gone through my whole life believing all of this about myself, believing that I can't run, I can't catch, I can't throw, I'm not coordinated. I even got, would you believe, booted out of a dance school that used to belong to my dad. And it wasn't because I couldn't dance. It was because I believed I couldn't dance. I used to walk myself to the back of the room and sit myself in the corner and tell the teacher I wasn't going to waste her time. This was me at 7 years old. So about 9 years ago, I just had my little baby Levi, and my parents took me, my mum and my stepdad took me to Lake Barrington for the very first time. This is now where we're ski club members. But on this particular day, I met this guy called Greg. Now, lots of you would know Greg by now, but this was the very first day I met Greg. And something really interesting happened. Greg asked me if I would like to go for a water ski, to which I responded, actually, I'm going to say my family responded pretty quickly, "Oh, Greg, she can't ski." And my response was, "Oh, yes, don't waste your time on me. You won't be able to get me up." Now, Greg didn't know about my shortcomings and he wasn't very interested in hearing about them. In fact, Greg, as we now know, loves a little bit of a challenge. And so his response to this was, "You just watch me. We'll see about that." So Greg took me out, and first go, he had me up just like that. Something I'd been trying to do for years and had absolutely given up on. It was really interesting what happened when suddenly I had somebody in my world who was saying, "I don't believe that. Yes, you can." Greg got me up on water skis, and the very following day, I was up on a slalom. And within no time at all, I was out skiing with people every single week at the lake. I'd suddenly found something I could do. This was so insanely powerful. It was like I'd proven myself wrong. I'd proven my inner bully wrong, and I was going to show her what for in every way I could. I started fairly quickly trying some other things. I started running. I started going to the gym. I started losing weight and getting healthy and getting fit. And I started telling myself, I can do this. Those things I believed about me weren't true. And I'm going to prove myself wrong on all of these fronts. Now, over the next few years, amazing things happened. I learned to water ski. I did a whole lot of fun stuff. And I was having an absolute ball until 2018, Australia Day came round. So quite a number of years went by. I was fit, having fun. I was doing all this stuff. And I went out disking. Disking essentially is a form of water skiing where you're standing on a big round board, but you've got no foot bindings in. I was out with a great friend and we were, both of us, behind the boat, and I thought I'd try something a little bit fun. So I got down cross-legged on this board, and I wanted to see if I could go from cross-legged to standing up. Now, the kids do this all the time. So here I am thinking, well, if the kids can do it, I can do it. I've learned how to say I can. In this case, it probably wasn't the wisest thing. I'm not as flexible anymore as I maybe once used to be, and my kids certainly are now. So as I started getting up, I got one foot up on the board and the other foot was still bent behind me. And as I went to pull that foot forward, the board went sideways and my foot went with the board. And I felt this popping in my knee. Now, when you have those little moments of shock and you kind of go, it's okay, nothing's wrong, before the pain sort of starts to set in. And I did the whole, I'm all right, I could get back up, and, pulled the board back in and went to have another go, only I couldn't feel my knee properly. It was kind of like this floppy limb that was attached, but felt funny, felt like it wasn't really attached anymore. So I slowly swam myself back to the boat and I just felt this sinking feeling, here it goes again. As we went back to the club, I realized something was really quite wrong. I couldn't bend my knee anymore. I was in a lot of pain. What I'd done is I had torn my medial cruciate ligament. And essentially, I had to pull on a little pull-up brace and go through a whole bunch of physio over the next few months. I was told I was out from water skiing, running, anything really intense for a good 6 to 12 months. Luckily, I escaped without any surgery. But I was out for a whole season of water skiing and I was devastated. So anyway, I went along with the program. I did all of the physio. I did all of the things. And we got to November long weekend of the beginning of the season again, and I was so, so excited. I had been through all my physio. My knee was feeling pretty good, and I was ready to get back out there. Now, the day before the November long weekend, I went to the gym. Now, one of the things I love doing is staying fit now that I know I can. And we were doing box jumps, and I got to the point where I went, when you get a little bit tired and you sort of go, you know what, I'm just going to push myself that little bit further. And I remember thinking to myself, no, you know what, you've gone really hard, you're okay. And that other inner voice said, don't be soft, don't be weak, you can do some more. And I did one more jump on this box. And as I did it, the box rocked slightly. And I fell forward and my other knee this time, my left knee, hit the ground, took the entire weight of my body. And I just felt this sickening thud. And I thought, you again, embarrassed, people are watching, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm just going to sort of crawl away from this and pretend all is okay with the world. So I dragged myself away and I sat up on one of the weight benches and I could feel my knee again was in excruciating pain, the other knee this time, and I couldn't feel it properly. And I just felt like I wanted to throw up. I felt sick to my stomach. And I remember these words going through my head. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? I don't understand. And I went to the doctor. I went through the weekend actually trying to, you go through this false sense of I can fix this. Denial was probably my go-to. And so I tried everything. I tried bending my knee, forcing it to bend. I tried, gritting my teeth through the pain. And I just remember those tears of frustration of, I'm not in control of this situation. I don't get why this keeps happening. These are freak accidents. What's going on? And this is my other knee. This is my good knee this time. So I went into the same doctor who just shook his head and went, I can't believe you've just got your other knee right and here you are again. And he said, this time it's worse. He said, what you've done is what's called a dashboard injury. This is a common injury when people have a car crash and their knee shoves up against the dashboard of the car. I had a compression fracture in my kneecap and I had torn my PCL. Now, this time it was worse. I was going to have to go into what I call my bionic leg, which was a leg, half leg brace. And it literally looked like a bionic leg. And I had to live in this for 3 months while I went through all of my physiotherapy. The trouble is that I've also got really lax joints. And so in order for my knee to heal, we had to force my knee forward so that all of the bits and pieces would heal back right where they were meant to be. And I didn't end up having a permanently floppy knee. So here we were, another year out for the season. Now I get to the lake and Greg calls me a caged animal when I am injured. He says it's like you're this tiger that's locked in a cage that just you get aggressive and you want to get out of this cage and you can't get out of this cage. And I can imagine I'm probably not the easiest person to live with. And I know any of you guys out there that are a little bit like me, those women that just want to be in control of everything. I know you hear my pain here. I am not the best person at being injured and being locked out of being able to do things. So in this case, I was pretty frustrated and my entire family are going to the lake every weekend. And here I am again in a knee brace and unable to water ski, do the one activity that, I love so much. I get to do it with my friends and my family. And here I was, permanent boat driver and sitting out yet again. So I went to the lake this particular weekend. I'm walking around in my knee brace, my bionic leg, and in a very random conversation with my family, I remember saying that, I just love once to be able to run a half marathon, just to say that I could do it. Now, a particular member in my family piped up and without even thinking about it, looked at me and said, Sam, you just need to realize there are some things you just can't do. Your body was never built to run. Your body was never built to be athletic. Just accept it. I remember this, and I feel quite emotional just talking about it now because I remember this feeling inside of me going, that voice. You heard that before and you've learned to say that to yourself. Now I sort of walked away feeling quite flat, thinking, maybe this person's really right. Maybe I've just got a little, I bit off more than I could chew. Here I was thinking I could do all of these things. And in actual fact, do you know what? I can't. Maybe I just can't. Maybe I just need to accept I wasn't put on this planet to be able to be sporty and coordinated and to catch balls and throw balls and do all of those things. And it was a few hours later and my stepdad came up to me. Now, I just want you guys to remember that sometimes we've got those little heroes around us that are ready to stand up and tell us just how much they do believe in us. And this story I want to tell you is not because we need to wait for someone to say this to us at all. There are these people in our world that do believe in us and they're going to walk this journey right alongside of us. However, the most powerful person in your world to tell you what you can and can't do is you. But nevertheless, a few hours later, my stepdad comes up to me and he sits down next to me and he goes, Sam, do you know, if you want to run a half marathon, I can help you run a half marathon. He said, I'll do it with you. I'll run it every step of the way. If you really want to do this, I believe you can do it and I will coach you. I will do this every step of the way. I'll be there for every training and we'll run it together. Is this really what you want? And I mean, first of all, how can you say no to that? But second of all, I just felt this insane feeling inside of me bubble up that was like, who are those voices in our head? Who are those people in our lives really that tell us that we can't? What do they actually know? And I just felt this insane feeling of gratitude that I had someone there to point me in the right direction. I'd like to think maybe for some of you guys listening to this today, perhaps I can point you in the right direction. Perhaps I can tell you that you can. Maybe I can even walk a journey with you. I don't know what that journey might be. It might be social media. I don't know. It might be something else. But the thing is that sometimes we just need that one little voice, that one little person that says, I believe in you. Now, I wasn't sure that I could run a half marathon. Let's be really fair. This is a massive bucket list item. This is the most I'd ever run was 10 kilometers. And let me just tell you that run was done. I was beaten by multiple people with prams and wheelchairs and even little tiny toddlers. So technically speaking, I'm going to say I'd never really run properly before. So I didn't know if this was going to be possible, but I was willing to give it a crack if my stepdad was willing to have a go with me. So he wrote out a training regime. And as soon as I got out of my brace and I was given the all clear, we were going to start. So we waited about 3 months, and I'm going to say my specialist wasn't overly keen on this whole concept of me getting on my knees so quickly. But we had a very, very slow start, and we worked really closely in. We listened to my body, and we started slow. We had loads of lead up. We didn't know when we were going to run a half marathon, so we had a crack. Now, we had a bit of a go. We started at 15 minutes. 15 minutes we would do every second or third day, and we did that for weeks until we slowly started to build up. Now, it was only last week, and I was doing a 1.5 hour training run. We're now up to 13, 14. This week will be 15K training runs. We're not all that far off our half marathon. And I was looking back on this whole journey and realizing something that I think was game-changing for me. And I wish I had learned this so much sooner in life. I feel like in everything that I've ever done, I've been trying to prove to everybody else that I can. I've been trying to prove to everybody else that I'm capable, that I'm confident, that I'm strong, that I'm in control, that I can start a business, that I can run it, that I can be successful, that I can be fit and healthy, that I can be an amazing mum. But never, ever in all of these years have I ever stopped and gone, I'm going to prove this to me because I'm the only person that matters. And I realized as I was in the last part of my 1.5 hour run last week, and this was the first time ever I'd run that far, I was looking back and going, why am I running the half marathon? Because I'm pretty sure that at the beginning of that process, I was doing it to prove to everybody else. I wanted to show the rest of the world that I could do it. And I realized that the only person I ever need to or want to prove anything to again is me. But I also realized that the only person that ever has or will stop me from doing anything is me. It's my inner bully. It's that voice in the back of my head that says, you can't do it. Don't you remember that time? Don't you remember when you didn't catch the ball, or when someone said this thing to you, or when you fell over and made a fool of yourself? Do you know that voice? I'm going to try and consciously stop that voice getting in my way ever again. I also feel an incredible gratitude. I've had an amazing opportunity to not only accomplish just what I have up till now. And you know what? If I never make it to that half marathon, I've achieved so much in the last 12 months that I'm so proud of me. But the other thing is I've had an amazing opportunity to build a relationship with my stepdad, someone who I've never really had the chance to properly get to know. And here we are out running 3-4 times a week and having a great chat, having a lot of fun, and we're doing it together every step of the way. My kids now have even joined along. The kids are now doing training runs with us. And when we go to do the half marathon, they're going to be running 5K, the 10K. We're all going to be doing it together. But here's the thing. Nobody else out there matters but you. And when we're trying to grow our business, when we're trying to be great at social media, when we're trying to learn new things, who are we doing it for? Why do we think that we can't do it some of the time? Why is it that we tell ourselves we're not tech savvy, or I can't do that, or I just can't be as good as that other person? Is that voice really helping? Does that voice really have a place in your world? Is it helping you? You know, I'm not here to give you all the technical words right now, and I know that there are some amazing people that will be able to articulate this message to you so much better. What I wanted to do was be a little bit more raw today and tell you about a personal experience of mine where I learned that something I believed my entire life that's formulated who I truly believed I was all built on a lie. And it was a lie that I'd heard, I'd believed, and I'd started telling myself. So if you've ever caught yourself saying, I'm not tech savvy, or I can't be as good as that person, or I just don't believe I can get to that level in my business, or I can do that thing over there that I want to do. Whatever your greatest goals are, whatever your bucket list items are, like a half marathon, you know what? If you truly believe in yourself, go for it. Have a go. And don't let your inner bully take over. Not for a moment, not for a second. Draw a little line in the sand. Tell your inner bully they need to stay over on that side of the line because you're going to move forward without them. I really want to be that person today that says to you that believing in yourself is one of the most powerful things you'll ever do. So thanks, guys, for listening to me today. This has been a little bit of a different podcast, I know, but what an amazing journey this has been for me. I hope that you've had some journeys like that in your life where you can look back and be so grateful for the challenge that you've had, but see where it's taken you now. And I really want to encourage you to kick that inner bully to the curb. So for now, look after yourselves. Have a really amazing week. I look forward to sharing with you the achievement of a completed half marathon run in July this year. And for now, I want to wish you all the best, many blessings, and we'll see you on the podcast again next week. Bye for now.